I think it's important for adoption education. I would like to remove that stigma of the birth mom who doesn't want her children, who's high on crack cocaine. I mean, I spend 2 to 3 nights a week at homeless shelter in Albany, where I work overnight, along with my daytime jobs. And we see a lot of women that, have made different decisions for their lives, and their children are taken away. But there are women out there that are, I went through some of the women in the group, right? Some of them are now stay-at-home moms. They have, other children that they're now parenting. They were maybe in high school. There's an HR admin. She has 3 degrees now. She was young when she got pregnant, but now has gone on. We have another woman. She works in the Department of Finance for New York State. So there's an array of women who chose more.
Welcome to the Adoption Roadmap Podcast, your go-to guide through the beautiful, complex, and transformative journey of adoption. I'm Rebecca Gruenspan, a single mom through adoption consultant for over a decade, author of the Adoption Roadmap book, and your trusted guide. In each episode, we dive into real experiences, expert insights, and the raw, honest truths that you will need to navigate your journey. Whether you're just beginning, in the thick of it, or well past placement, you'll find support and community here to help you navigate this unique path with confidence and love. Adoption isn't all rainbows and butterflies. It is life-changing and worth every bit of effort. Let's learn, grow, and journey together on the Adoption Roadmap Podcast. Welcome back to another empowering episode of the Adoption Roadmap Podcast, where we navigate the heartfelt and intricate journeys of adoption, resilience, and the creation of loving families. I'm your host, Rebecca Gruenspan, and today we are thrilled to introduce our guest, Katy Kinirons Mejia, a beacon of strength, advocacy, and inspiration in the adoption community. Katy's story is one of immense courage and unwavering dedication. 10 years ago, Katy made the profound decision to place her twins for adoption, a choice which was shaped by the harrowing experience of becoming pregnant through rape. This deeply personal journey has not only transformed her life, but has also fueled her mission to support and uplift other birth mothers navigating similar paths. As the founder and facilitator of Giving More Through Adoption, Katy has created a sanctuary for birth moms and those touched by adoption. Her support group offers invaluable resources and a sense of community with an annual birth mom retreat taking place on the East Coast and culminating in a heartfelt dinner for anyone touched by adoption. But Katy's impact doesn't stop there. She's a multifaceted professional, an inspirational speaker, life coach, real estate professional, educator, and a dedicated mother to 2 grown children, and speaks English and Spanish. There might be some other languages in there we'll get to later. Katy seamlessly blends her professional skills with her personal experiences to inspire and empower others, and is a strong advocate for adoption. Whether she's speaking at events, coaching individuals, or helping families find their way through the adoption process, Katy embodies the spirit of resilience and unconditional love. Today, Katy joins us to share her incredible journey, the motivations behind her advocacy, and the wisdom she has gained through her decade-long experience as a birth mom advocate. From overcoming personal trauma to building supportive communities, Katy's story is a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the power of giving more through adoption. Get ready for a heartfelt and enlightening conversation that highlights the true essence of resilience, healing, and the unwavering commitment to helping others build their families. Please help me in welcoming Katy to our podcast. Welcome, Katy. I'm so
Well,
glad
Becca,
you're here today.
that was overwhelming. I feel like that's all that needs to be said. Wow.
Right?
What a
And
welcome.
right, we're done. We're done. That's it. Okay, you don't get off that easy, but we do try to make our guests feel really loved before they
Wow,
even
for
start.
sure.
So
For sure.
awesome. You know what? I don't usually do this because this is not typically a podcast about stories. And I also understand we can learn so much through stories. So I'm going to start a little bit different and just have you share your story. And I'm going to leave it that open and just see what you tell us. Like, tell us your journey of adoption.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and giving me that carte blanche to say it. If I'm in the supermarket and somebody asks me how many children I have, it's usually like, do you want the long story or the short story? So am I an adoption educator in that moment, or am I just checking out my eggs? So
That's right.
usually I start with, are you familiar with adoption, right? Because there could be, trauma or some dust that gets unsettled when I talk to people. And my family adopted 3 of my cousins back in the 80s. So we were familiar with adoption and we were more on the receiving end. And when I was parenting my older 2 children, they were 12 and 10 at that point, or maybe 11 and 9. My marriage had ended and I was found pregnant through a rape, and I did not know exactly what I was going to do. There's a book called The Third Choice, and I reached out to an adoption counselor. At first, I hid the pregnancy, and then I hid the fact that it was a rape. I didn't really consider it that way because I knew the person that assaulted me. And I think that there's a lot of shame in that. So apart from adoption and being a birth mom, there's dealing with that and many pregnancies through that situation, or maybe I should say many situations don't end with an actual pregnancy. And this pregnancy was not just one baby, but twins. So it was definitely overwhelming at that point. And then to have to face people and tell them I'm pregnant. It wasn't my idea. The person I was dating at the time was not the father who would want to parent children with me that weren't theirs, and this person actually wanted me to abort. And I had that choice. Am I going to parent? Am I going to abort? Or will I choose adoption? And I think because I had cousins that were adopted, it wasn't a foreign concept to me. And I used to say I would be a surrogate mother, but it never could be my ex. Like, I was adamant if people were to ask me about it. And if I were to go back 20 years and if God was to say, Katy, one day I want you to gift parenting, I would have been like, God, you got the wrong person. Like, I love parenting. I've been a school teacher for almost 30 years now, and I love children. At that time, I was running a daycare. So, the infant stage, none of that was foreign to me. But I did feel that these children deserved a dad, not just a bio or maybe someone in the future. I wanted them to have a dad. I also did not want the trauma to be linked to their everyday. My other 2 children, I was already divorced, and they were asked often, where's your dad? Where's your dad? Where's your dad? And I did not want that for these children. And at no point did I not love them. I love them. And it was a heart-wrenching decision. Every day your belly's growing and you have 2 babies and you're going to doctor's appointments. And it came to that point that it was like, these children I was not expecting. They're not with somebody that I was going to marry or, have any relationship with. And I thought maybe there's more to this. And I did reach out to an adoption counselor. We found out that baby A had Down syndrome. They do the nucleotranslucency at 14 weeks. And so I had to meet with a genetic counselor. And in that meeting, I told her I wanted a DNA test and that I was considering adoption. And she put me in touch with Lori Carino Reynolds here in the New York area. And she asked me, if you were to consider adoption, what are your top threes? And I gave her my top threes, a Christian couple, a couple that would consider twins. You know, a lot of people that are going through fertility do get two eggs transferred at a time. So it is not too rare for people to consider having twins because both embryos may grow. And then the third is obviously somebody who would be willing to parent somebody with Down syndrome. I remember getting that positive diagnosis. And I used to work at a camp with children and adults with Down syndrome. It still hits when you get a diagnosis that your child might not be as typical as expected, but Asher is perfect. His Down syndrome is beautiful, and it makes him this fun, jolly, and deep person. So those are my top three. I started searching, and I guess we'll get more into that, but that's the beginning of the journey.
Thank you so much for opening up about that. I have a couple questions. First of all, you mentioned something medically that they do at a certain point of the pregnancy, which is when you found out
Right.
your son had Down syndrome. What did you call that?
The
And what is that?
nuchal translucency. They look on the back of the skull to see the liquid that is there, and that like a millimeter, they measure it, and then they're able to see certain genetic predispositions.
Okay. You said earlier that he wanted you to get an abortion. Was this your boyfriend or the
Yes.
person who?
Yeah, the gentleman. I'm not with him anymore, but the person I was
Okay.
dating at the time. Yes.
Okay. You said something that really hit me. It didn't, I don't know if it surprised me one way or another, but you said, I really love these children. You know, you had a pregnancy based in shame, I think you said, whatever that looked like and whatever that felt like to you. And, you know, you were dealing with an assault that happened to you. And yet you still felt love for these children that you were carrying. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Can we just, I want to dig
Sure.
into that a little bit more because I'm sure there was a lot of conflicting feelings, I'm guessing, on our side as the hopeful adoptive parent, at least for me personally, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. There's definitely conflicting feelings when I hear it's a child that was conceived through rape. So tell me what you are feeling around that time.
Sure. I think I've always had a deep love for children. My mom, when I was decided to go to college, you know, she's like, you're going to be a teacher and this is where you're going. So I've always loved children. I babysat since I was 10. I've always believed that it's never a child's fault. They were never asked to be conceived. So just as my older two are half mine, half my ex-husband's, these children are half mine. They're innocent. They had no idea how they were conceived. And I actually have two pregnancy losses because I have MTHFR. It's a genetic mutation where homocysteine will clot my blood. And I've buried two babies. So my third and fourth children were not.
I used to call that
The mother, yes.
I used to call that the motherfucker gene.
Yes.
I used to call it the motherfucker gene.
That's exactly it. And you know what? It really is.
That's the one. You had it. Okay.
I've lost two babies from it. My third child at 5 months, and I got to deliver my baby and bury him, baby Ryan, and then my 5 years later I got pregnant again, and baby Grace, she also passed at 3 months, and they're both buried in Jersey. And I know what it's like to have that loss. I know what it's like to bury children, and I don't, it was actually torturous for me to have the power to kill my own children. And I mean, I have a very strong conviction where I think we're taught that it's a clump of cells, but nobody has an elephant shower or a fetus shower. We have a baby shower. We call it a baby shower. When it's wanted, it's a baby. When it's not wanted, it's a fetus. So, I don't want that power. I had it for a few minutes. I made the appointment. They told me they were going to inject the whatever the poison was into my baby's hearts, and I cried. And I called the boyfriend at the time up, and I told him to. So I said, "Come over." I said, "I will die. The Katy that everyone loves, that outgoing, exuberant personality." I said, "I'll die, and I will never be able to live again." I said, "I don't know if God will sustain this pregnancy, because I had the prior 2 losses. I didn't know if he gave me 2 more because I lost 2. Am I supposed to parent these 2?" But I knew that it wasn't a decision I can make. Back to your initial question, is they're loved. They're mine. And in fact, I prayed to God because my older 2 have brown eyes. And I don't have brown eyes. And I was like, "God, please give these children any other color. Give them my eyes, please." And, genetically, it wasn't supposed to be, but they do have my eyes. They're loved, and they know it.
Oh, amazing. And do you feel any sense of trauma when you see them today? Do you see them
It's a
today?
good
Do you
question.
get to
Yes,
see them?
we have an extremely open adoption. I did pump for them. I nursed them in the
Okay.
hospital. And now again, I was 36, a school teacher,
Oh,
running a daycare of over 100 kids.
mhm.
And I wasn't 18, I wasn't 16. I had nursed children, and I knew the importance of breast milk. So yeah, they sleep over. I go to their school plays. This weekend, they're going to meet the Kinirons side, my father's side. Probably 60 relations that the people that they have not met yet. But yeah, it is important. And they see my eyes. They see the love. They have my chubby cheeks. Lucas and Asher.
And I love those names, by the way. I assume that because you're sharing your story publicly, which I want to talk about in a second, that they know their story, their full story.
Yes. So Jess and Elias are their parents. And then Christian and Brianna are my older 2. Jess and Elias parent very openly, whatever questions are asked. And Mary Snyder, who was their adoptive attorney, taught them, as you're changing that diaper, tell the story. Every time you change a diaper, tell the adoption story. Not that they may have not have done it every single time, but it was just that word picture of seeing.
Right.
They've always known they were adopted. We've always had visits. And recently, Asher, who has Down syndrome, just knows I'm his Mama Kate. And now he has graduated to calling me Mommy Kate, because he calls his mom Mommy. And Lucas and I had a heart-to-heart in June. I did not know that he knew some of the story. And he said to me, we were playing chess, and he was reminding me of the pawn, all the pieces. And I knew how the pawn moved and the king. And I was like, "What does the bishop do?" And he's so intelligent. And now his parents are highly intelligent, high vocabulary, well-educated. And I said, "You're so smart." I said, "Just like your parents." Because we joke and we openly talk about adoption. And I'll say, "Where do you get your chubby cheeks from? Where do you get your eyes from?" Things like that. And he said, 3 of my parents are intelligent. The other one was not so smart. And he went into it. Yeah. And I started crying. Recently.
As I am.
Yeah. I said, "Lucas, for 10 years, people have been asking me questions. You're the only one worthy of all the answers." I said, "Any question you want at any time, today or in the future, I will answer it." And I explained that adoption is like an onion, and we take off that outer layer. And I said, "What do we do with that?" He said, "We throw it away." I said, "We recognize it's there. It held its purpose, and then we throw it away. But with the other layers, we can make onion rings." And I asked him, what can we make out of onions? We could put them on a salad, on a pizza, the bloomin' onion. I always love the fair. We go to fairs together. We've been away on vacations together. He is and they've taught him to be so emotionally intelligent, because he's like, "Mama Kate, if it's too much, we don't have to discuss it." That was beautiful. It was so beautiful. And then he got to share a little bit about, their story and their infertility, because their mom and dad have been able to share that. Jess is very public. She has a blog as well. It would be wonderful. You could have a whole podcast with Jess.
I would love that. So
Yeah,
please bring her to
I
me.
will.
This is thank you. There's so many lessons in this conversation already, and I hope that everybody listening is taking all these little nuggets. I will share for me, and I don't know that I've ever shared this publicly, but as adoptive parents, we have to check a lot of boxes as far as the criteria that we are open to. And I remember when I got to the box of a child conceived by rape, I gasped because it was something I never considered and I
Mhm.
never thought about it. And it didn't dawn on me. And I sat with it and I thought, I don't think I'm strong enough personally to navigate this story for a child. Actually, this conversation is for the first time really starting to have me look at it in a totally different way. And I think it depends also on how the mom feels, right? If I were to talk to you and you said everything that you just said to me, I may have thought different about that.
Mm.
And if you would have said, I had a hard time every minute of that pregnancy because this pregnancy reminded me of what happened and it was traumatic and I couldn't wait to get this baby out, I don't know that I could, right?
Right.
So the narrative throughout the whole thing is part of a person's story. And you just made me see it in a whole different light, and I thank you for that. And I'm always amazed by my clients who I work with. I work with hopeful adoptive parents who don't blink an eye,
Right.
when we're presenting a situation that is a product of rape, and they're willing and ready to move forward. Listen, all of our children need counseling, so it's just a matter of,
That's
are
true.
you
Right.
ready to have this type of, because I've heard from adoptees before that have that as part of their story, and I'm always
Mm-hmm.
so amazed by their strength. But thank you for
Sure.
sharing that part of it, and I wanted to bring it full circle now, because I think that's an important piece of it as well, and just the way you're
Yeah.
able to talk about it so openly is so important.
Yeah. Something I say
How
is
are
he only got 10 minutes, and that's all he's getting of my life. He gets no more time.
Hey, amen. A to the men,
Yes.
to the woman. Um, A to the woman. What motivated you to share your story publicly? How did you find that courage?
I think sharing every time somebody asks. Somebody taught me each time you share your story, you heal a little bit more. So it depends who I'm
Mm,
sharing with. Sometimes I will tear up. If I feel super safe, or I feel like that person like you is truly wanting to hear my story and is
mhm,
open to allowing me to heal and pull back another layer. Um, I think it's
mm,
important for adoption education. I would like to remove that stigma of the birth mom who doesn't want her children, who's high on crack cocaine. I mean, I spend 2 to 3 nights a week at homeless shelter in Albany, where I work overnight, along with my daytime jobs. And we see a lot of women that, have made different decisions for their lives, and their children are taken away. But there are women out there that are, I just actually, I went through some of the women in the group, right? And I wrote it down. Some of them are now stay-at-home moms. They have, other children that they're now parenting. They were maybe in high school. There's an HR admin. She has 3 degrees now. She was young when she
wow.
got pregnant, but now has gone on. We have another woman. She works in the Department of Finance for New York State, and she's a birth mom 2 times over.
Wow.
Another birth mom, also 2 times over, owns a cleaning business. Another cleans offices at night. So there's an array of women who chose more. They didn't give up their children. They never gave up
Yes.
on themselves. They didn't give up on a pregnancy. And
Mm.
I would like to pause and talk about women that have chose abortion, because I do get to talk to them, and some of them say, I wish I knew adoption was an option, because they get to that place where they realize that they're missing. And that's a different type of grief. My grief is different with the
Mm.
children I buried. That's closure. I think that's why birth moms grieve so much, is because their children are still living on this earth and they are grieving parenting. Although they gifted parenting, it's still a loss that they feel, and they see it every day. And I don't think they
Absolutely.
realize that there would be such grief. And we think, I did have a family member that said, just let him go, Katy. And I was like, no, that's not how it is today. We've done research. Adoptees are traumatized when you do not have contact with them. They don't know their original names. They don't have their original birth certificates. They don't have their medical history. Something beautiful my couple did was kept my maiden name, Kinirons, as a second middle name for my twins. I also did not name them Asher and Lucas. I left that to their parents to name them, because I didn't want them to have a name change. And a lot of birth moms, when they're pregnant and they're called expectant mothers, and then the hopeful adoption couple come together, I think everyone wants to name a baby. But it's really important for the adoptees only going to be a baby for a year. Then they're a toddler for 2, a child for maybe 10, because at 12, they're a sprouting adolescent. And then they live 60 years of their lives as adults. So when we're adopting a person, we're not just adopting a baby, we're adopting a full grown adult that really needs to have as less trauma as possible. And as an expectant mother, and now you asked, why I share this publicly, is because I'd like to reduce trauma for adoptive parents. Adoptive parents, if they've had fertility issues, it doesn't heal them. And that's what Jess says. This is not a healing from the loss of pregnancy for them. The loss of having a child with their own genetic makeup, that look like them, that might have attributes like them, that's always going to be a loss for an adoptive couple. The loss of not growing up in your birth home, and then, or knowing people, and then, whatever might be, a name change, or, not knowing the medical history. Those are losses that it's important to talk about, so that when my 2 are older, they're going to be able to ask me those things. They have medical history. I've already written a lot
Yeah.
out. So if something were to happen to me, and my couple's not searching for it in the future.
Ugh, you are so thoughtful. You brought up a couple things. The name thing. I love when my families can have the conversation with a mom, an expectant mom, prior to giving birth and asking. I always advise, ask her,
Right,
if she asks you, what are you thinking about naming your child? I say, before you answer, and maybe you don't even know yet, ask her, is there a name that's really important to you
right.
or that you've always thought of? And hopefully, between your names and her names, you can come up or compromise or make it a middle name or whatever, so that you can always tell your child, we came up
This
with your
name
name
is, yeah,
together, or you have a piece of your birth mom and your name. Yeah, I think it's beautiful
yeah,
because a name is so attached to
it
identity.
is. Absolutely.
And, having to go back and finding your original birth certificate and seeing that the name that you thought
Right.
was your name your whole life really wasn't. That's got to be a
It is.
thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And you brought something else up, which, the idea of it doesn't replace, right, the infertility that you suffered, the loss that you suffered, whatever it is. And that's right, it fills a big piece of that void. Every once in a while I find myself getting choked up at the thought of of not
Mm.
being able to have gotten pregnant on my own, or
Right.
not the thought of not ever being able to look in a child's eyes and see myself, even though you see yourself in other ways. But it's I thought I would, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't
Yeah.
ever. But there is it there are things that help fill those voids in that
Mm-hmm.
loss. But
Absolutely.
you talked a little bit about those three important things: a Christian couple, a couple who would want twins, and a couple who would want a child with Downs. When you were looking at profiles, is that what you did? Did you look
I
at
did.
adoption profiles
Yes.
when you were choosing a
I found a
family?
couple. Can't
Okay.
find a husband, but like the online dating.
But you can find it. You and me both, baby. You and me both. That'll be a different podcast for
Right.
another day, and we should talk about that. Definitely be entertaining.
Right.
Do you remember, first of all, how did you look through a lot of them or just a few of them? And was there any language that popped out at you that made you kind of get the ick, or that really stood out to you in some sort of way? Because language is so important in every, I always wonder, should it be our child, your child, my child? What did you notice when it came to language, and how many did you look at?
It's interesting. I've never even thought of that term. But there is a site for people that are specifically open to people with Down syndrome. So I did go through that. It's not an adoption agency. It's just like a network. And I think there were 3 couples from there that I
I've heard of it.
interviewed. And I met one couple in person. And then I will say the man that I was dating at that time, although he wanted me to abort, he then came alongside and walked through the whole process with me. So he did not leave me high and dry. So he did accompany me with all of these choices. And after the birth, we broke up a few months after. But the language, I did ask some family members or close friends that I knew that might have had trouble conceiving. And I reached out to them. And then when I met that Lori, who's the adoption counselor, she put it out there to agencies in the New York network. And I think, I know Jess and Elias's profile got sent to me. I think more because they were missionaries in Africa for a short time, and I was a missionary in Lima, Peru. So that word was like a key word for the adoption agencies, because it's not normal that you would necessarily find a specifically Christian couple missionary. So that, I think, was the key word, the opposite way. And when I got their profile, their pictures did not load. I mean, it was 10, 11 years ago. So the, internet's come a long way in 11 years.
Yeah.
And their words were just beautiful. I think that was just, they were normal. They didn't pretend to be anything they weren't. They had a dog. And my older 2 always wanted a dog. I'm allergic to vet bills, so we didn't have a dog. And I don't know that it was a we or the baby or anything that really captured me. It was more of how they lived their lives and that they had various experiences. They seemed to not be afraid of anything. Back to where you were saying, checking the box about a child conceived in a certain way. Actually, Jess had it where she was not open to a child with special needs. She thought she could never be that special needs mother. And Elias is the one who said, let's just meet this expectant mom. And he pushed for the opportunity to parent somebody with Down syndrome. And just the other day, she posted, my greatest fear ended up being one of her greatest joys. Now, you're not knowing whether or not, I'll have to check it out. And I would say their joy parenting healed my pain. Yeah, their joy healed my pain. Every time I saw them parent, or any picture they would send me, or Facebook post I would see, just watching them loving parenting really helped me heal. And something I asked in the beginning before we left the hospital was like, I said, if at any point I'm having a tough moment, can you just text me a picture? And I'll just text you tough moment and you text me a picture. And I think I did it once, maybe in the first week or 2, and I never had to do it again because I always knew that it would be an option for me, that she would respond to my heart.
I love that. So it was a word. I mean, there was a language, but not in the way I asked it, but it was that. And I always tell my parents, you never know what's going to
Right.
connect with a
Yeah.
mom. You
Just
never
be
know
you.
what's going to connect, whether it be, yeah, just be you. It could be the same tattoo that you have on your right
Hmm.
arm is the tattoo
Yeah.
she's always wanted,
Right.
or you
Yep.
just never know. So the fact that they were missionaries and you were missionary was what did it, were your kids involved in that process at all?
The counselor encouraged me not to because it's almost like getting to know somebody, falling in love with them, and then you might not choose them or they might not choose you. So initially,
Got it.
they came to my house when I first met them. I cooked for them chicken parm because that's my signature dish. I wanted them to see where we lived. I wanted them to
Okay.
see that we were normal. I had pictures on the fridge. I said, "These are my kids. They're cute. I make cute babies." Because I'm sure that's something that you think
Yeah,
about when you're
that is
adopting. Like,
important. Oh, for
what
sure.
are my babies going to look like in 10 years, in 20 years from now?
100%.
Yeah. And then I wanted them to feel a part of my family because my understanding of open adoption was we're almost getting married in some way, shape, or form. We might not live close. They live 2.5 hours away, which gives them, their own opportunity to parent, to not have any, I don't know, over parenting. Like, I don't know that I've ever given advice, only answered questions. Like, Jess would call me and say, "Do the kids allergic to such and such?" Or, "Did Christian or Brianna ever do such and such?" But I try very hard to allow them to parent and not get involved in that unless it's solicited.
Okay, I don't want to scare our listeners away by saying it was almost like a marriage. I more consider it as an extension of your family, like,
Agreed.
I don't know, first
Right.
cousins, second cousins.
It does feel like I would say
But
that. Yeah,
yeah,
agreed. In
it
fact,
definitely is a merging of families
it is
though.
emerging.
But to your point, you didn't, yeah, but
In
you
New
weren't
York
there to
State,
parent, and you knew that,
no,
it sounds
no.
like.
Yeah, New York State, we have a contract. So we're allowed, we have 5 visits a year on paper. I would say it ebbs and flows, and you'll hear more about their story when Jess and Elias talk to you, because Elias has had not just one double lung transplant in the last 8 years, but two. It is an amazing
Wow.
story. He has cystic
Wow.
fibrosis. And, I was a soccer mom. I was coaching soccer. There's certain times of the year you can get together. We always do a Christmas picture. But I have my children, my older two, call Jess and Elias Aunt Jess and Uncle Elias, because they can't just call them Jess and Elias. There's a respect level for my kids to this couple that's raising the children that we all belong to. They don't belong to us. We belong to them.
Yeah.
And then I wanted the twins to call me Mama Kate. Nobody really calls me Kate. And being that we speak Espanol y que vivimos en Peru, que mis hijos también hablan español, that we lived in Peru, my kids also speak Spanish. Mama in Spanish is mom. And I didn't want to take a mommy or a mommy role. That's really special. It's special to me as a mom raising children. And there's difference between being a birth
Mhm.
mom and parenting. I think the parent gets that mom name, that dad name. So that's why they call me Mama Kate. And there's times Lucas is like, "Can I call you Katie?" And I was like, "You can call me whatever you want, but nobody calls me Mama Kate but you." And he's like, "Oh, okay."
I
But
love it.
yeah.
My son is Hispanic and his dad calls him Papi.
See? Exactly.
Cute.
It's good. And they know the word beso,
Yeah.
which is kiss. Give me besos, besos.
Yes. Yes. I love that. You said that watching how they parent your child helps you in your healing journey. What else has helped you in your healing journey?
Well, I think going to birth mom retreats was huge. In the beginning, I did
Yeah.
not realize how the loss would literally, there's some guilt. Will my children be mad at me for placing them in adoption, for choosing adoption, for making
Mm.
an adoption plan? At no point did I give them up. I gifted them another family. And you see that in the grandparents and on both sides in the extended family. But I went to a birth mom retreat out in San Diego. In the beginning, I think I was 6 months post placement, and it was amazing to be in a room with 30 other women that chose adoption and are living with that pain that no one else can understand. And it's not that we are not thankful for our adoptive parents. We're maternal people, and we're made to parent. And then when that baby is no longer there, it's like I said, it's not the loss. Like if a baby passes, someone else is parenting, and for some reason it's a huge loss that carries you. And then I searched online, and there are people, I'm sure you're familiar with that baby stealer era, and I would say birth moms that are older than me who did not get a chance, did not get a choice. Maybe they didn't get a chance to hold their babies. Their parents forced them to choose adoption. They may have never even seen their children. That generation of birth moms are very angry, rightfully so. But I was in a new generation, although I was older and more, I guess, outspoken of my story, that it was very hard for me to be a part of those birth mom groups because they hated adoption altogether. And I said, there has to be birth moms out there that, although they're mourning something, they're still joyful in their choice, because you can still have joy in pain. You can have joy in death. You can have comfort in hardship. I mean, we've all gone through something that, although we're mourning maybe a loss of a parent, you're comforted in the fact that you had an amazing parent or years with that person. So it's not just all mourning. It's also, I love that my kids have a mom and a dad. They have extended family. They have amazing grandparents on both sides, with Jess's parents and Elias's parents, and they've welcomed all of us. So having that opportunity to help other birth mothers has helped me heal.
That's beautiful. I was going to ask you, because originally you said in a room where people were thankful for adoption, even though going through their pain. So it sounds like there were two camps. Do you feel like the people who have placed more recently in the last 10 years did on a whole feel thankful for adoption? Before we go on, we're going to take a quick break, but don't go away. We still have so much to talk about. Hey there, Adoption Roadmap fam. Are you ready to take the next step on your journey to parenthood? If so, head over to our website and take our quiz. It's called, Are You Ready to Adopt? It's not just about testing your knowledge. It's about making sure you're emotionally and practically prepared for the beautiful, complex journey of adoption. Let's make your dream of parenthood a reality. Go to rgadoptionconsulting.com and take the Are You Ready to Adopt quiz today. That's rgadoptionconsulting.com. The quiz is free, and it will let you know where you are in the process and if you're ready to jump into your adoption journey. Placed more recently in the last 10 years, did on a whole feel thankful for adoption?
I think both. I think there's definitely women many years ago that placed, that have yet to reunify, are thankful. I definitely see that.
Sure.
Who I find has the most trouble are the people where the adoptive parents have not kept their word. They have stopped the visits,
Yes.
stopped the communication, and that is huge. That could be a podcast itself. It's really important to, as you said in our last,
your
to
word. Keep your word.
over deliver, under promise, over deliver, and keep your word is right. So I think people are scared. I mean, Jess and I have had really hard conversations for other people, but for us, we love these children so much. Like, okay, for example, the first time your kid poops on the potty, who else is going to be so excited? Imagine they have another mother out there that you can call and be like, oh my goodness, so-and-so. I mean, even if you call Nana, Grandma, Grammy's going to be like, oh, so cute. But there's no one more excited than another woman who also is that mother. We share motherhood. In fact, I have a picture, and I don't know if you're able to share, when you share the podcast, but Jess and I are laying on the bed together, and I have a huge belly, and she didn't get to ever experience pregnancy. So I was like, come close. I want you to feel the babies move in your belly. And so we're belly to belly.
Oh my God. That is amazing, Katie. Wow. That's gonna make me cry because that's the one thing, right? As a woman, you want to feel. Wow, what a beautiful gift you gave her. Mm. Yeah, I'd love to see that picture. Whoosh. Wow.
There's a lot of layer to this onion, and onions make us cry. The onion of adoption, right?
Onions do make us cry. Wow.
But they add
That
so
is
much flavor.
beautiful. What has been, yeah, for sure. They do add so much flavor. Wow. What strategies have been most effective for you in finding peace and resilience?
Counseling is very important. Counseling, I had to tell my 10-year-old and 8-year-old that I was going to choose adoption for them, for the twins. And then I got pregnant through rape. And I didn't necessarily use the word rape at first. I wrote them a book, being a school teacher. And it has the first 4 pages are, Christian, my son, how I got pregnant with him, my daughter, and a picture of me pregnant on each page with them. And then the 2 losses, baby Ryan, baby Grace, and then how mom found herself unexpectedly pregnant. All the different kinds of moms there are: birth moms, surrogate moms, stepmoms, right? All the way families are made. Same with dads. And then just being very open and transparent, never lying. Maybe not always sharing until it's time. Like, we talk about telling our children about sex, right? And here we have Lucas knew his story. I don't know exactly when Jess told him, but as much as he could handle, Jess shared with him. So counseling, learning from a professional like you, like me, or like a coach that understands adoption, or a licensed mental health counselor. I'm actually going for my master's right now. I'm in grad school to become a counselor.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
And also I had counseling not just for adoption. Then I saw a different counselor specific towards the rape and overcoming that. Because there's different, and that I didn't even do until after the twins were born. Like, I unpacked that separately, and I'm sure some together, but more like on that trauma spectrum. Support.
Yeah.
Some families don't understand. I spoke to my sister just yesterday, and initially I think she felt, and it may have been a wall of protection, emotional protection, like, okay, they've been adopted, they're not my nephews anymore, I have to cut myself off from them. Maybe that emotional loss they're feeling as well, allowing the family to express their loss. And that's why we do the dinner every year that you spoke of. Anyone touched by adoption.
Yeah.
Maybe we've had adoptees come that have never met their birth families, never met their birth mom, and they're in a room with other birth moms, and they're able to feel the love. We think of our birth kids every single day. So that I think journaling, meeting with other birth moms, other birth dads, adoptive families, listening to other women and men who have adopted, listening to adoptees. I think that is a great strategy, because the more you hear how adoptees feel, I think it spurs you on to be as healthy as possible.
Yeah, and I love how you said at the beginning that healing comes within or out of sharing. Like, the more you share, the more you heal. I can see that in myself as well. What I'm curious, after experiencing rape, after experiencing placing your children, giving birth to a child with Downs, parenting your own children, going through divorce, what did you learn about Katy Mejia?
Oh, wow. I think everyone has a role in life. We're made for connection. I think you said in the beginning, like resilience. And I am a woman of faith. I became a believer at 18. And
Mm.
God says that He brings us through trials to perfection, to perfect our faith so we can know Him more, know what it means to forgive people, to relinquish guilt and shame, and to be forgiven, because we're not perfect. We need to tell our children, forgive us often. And maybe more so, they need to hear that than I love you. You know, even in a marriage, I think that what I learned about myself, some women don't give themselves too much credit. And I do give the credit to God. I want God to get the glory. And in fact, two friends, when I was considering abortion, Mark, who I worked under in New Jersey, he's a believer. And then my girlfriend, Amy in Florida, neither have met each other. They didn't even know each other existed. Amy, I taught with at the school in Lima, Peru, and Mark, I worked for in the insurance field in New Jersey. And I called them up and I said, would you hate me if I aborted? And they both said to me, God needs to get the glory. Whatever you choose. Of course, I'll love you. God needs to get the glory. And they both said that same phrase. And I do want God to get the glory for my life. And sometimes you're not as financially independent, especially as a single parent raising two children with no, financial help from the ex. He still lives in Lima, Peru, so it's very hard from a third world country to send money. Is that no matter what, you can get through it. There is another side. The sun is still shining when the clouds move away. And I see it in my 22 and 20-year-old. They are amazing adults. They understand that they can get through anything. And they see that they're loved.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a purpose. We're meant
I'm
to
curious.
connect. Go ahead.
For sure. How has your journey as a birth mom influenced your sense of identity?
My twins' identity? Oh, my sense of identity? Say it again.
Your own sense of identity. Did it shift after you became a birth mom who placed?
Yeah.
Did who you thought of yourself before and who you were and what made you shift, and what has been, what perspectives have most significantly shifted for you?
I would say that that's where I'm at now. If I have to work on me, when I see pictures of myself prior to the rape, I think that changed me more than maybe being a birth mom. I don't know how I would feel if I only had the birth mom part and not the rape part, because PTSD comes usually with rape. And I see pictures of that girl and I'm like, wow, it's a different person completely. I think there were things I was able to do before that maybe I don't see that I'm able to do, or I do differently. I think I was always compassionate. I'm probably more patient. And then there's sometimes I have more boundaries because of what happened. My boundaries down. And then there are some birth moms and we have to be there for each other, emotionally supporting, but we cannot financially support each other. And it's definitely a lot of lower socioeconomic area, I think women that have chosen adoption tend to be in. So it's important not to financially float somebody else when they're going through it. And not that there haven't been times, but that's a great one. I probably need to do more counseling on that. And sometimes I'm so busy.
I'll ask you again in 10 years.
Yeah, I think speaking, I love sharing. I love hearing stories. Like you said, you don't always hear stories, but I think we are able to see ourselves in other people's stories a little bit and say, I connect with that. I understand that. So my identity is probably like a puzzle of many different things at this point I never thought I would have experienced in my life.
It's profound, isn't it? Like
It is.
even just with age too, right? Our our puzzles keep having more pieces and you don't know
Mm-hmm.
what those pieces are going to look like.
Yeah.
Um but thank you for sharing that. There's such power in seeing yourself in other people's stories, right?
Yeah.
And which is one of the reasons we ask our families once they've adopted to share their stories for our website. Not everybody's comfortable with that. And, maybe it will take them some time. And I hope that they will, especially when it comes to, whether you're a birth mom or a victim of rape, or you're white or you're black or you're Hispanic or whatever, you always want to see somebody that has experienced who looks like you and how they've come out the other end or how they are
Yes.
working through it. So I encourage everyone, and also it opens doors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sharing our stories.
Yeah.
When I first started the adoption journey, I didn't know very much about adoption and what route I was going to take. But I decided to start sharing my infertility journey and sharing that I was thinking about adoption. And through that, I was led to a consultant and whatever. The more you open up, the more you're going to find people that are like you or that have experienced the same thing and they want an outlet to share. But
Absolutely.
they don't feel like they should or they can or or they'll be judged. And so
Mm-hmm.
when somebody else shares a story that feels connected to them, they suddenly light up. So
Absolutely.
I think it's so powerful. So
Yeah.
I want to shift now to Giving More Through Adoption, this remarkable support group that you've created for birth moms. What inspired you to create this initiative? Obviously, you've told us already how healing it is to be around other birth moms. You went to this other birth mom retreat. What inspired you to create an initiative? It's not easy to do. And how has it evolved?
Yeah, when I came back, I said, we need to do this here. And I met with the counselor that I had worked with that had walked me through my adoption plan. And we actually held meetings, monthly meetings in her office for a while. And we do have some local adoption agencies that donate through to our to the retreat. And I just said, we need this here. And if no one was doing it, I'll do it. I'm not afraid to start anything. I've run other businesses and maybe being a teacher, being a leader, I don't know, being a pitcher on the softball team, whatever it was, being a coach. I've always coached sports.
Yeah.
I've even coached basketball. I'm 5'2", never played basketball in my life, but I've coached it, you know?
Oh
So
my God. I
yeah.
love you.
We just we needed it. We need it in person. It's not the same online, and anybody can join online as well, but we needed it here. And so that the twins were born in April. I think I went maybe in June or July or maybe October. I think I went in October to San Diego. And then they told me November was National Adoption Month. And I was like, let's set it up. And I've had it at my house. Yeah. We've hosted it here at my house. It's warm, it's cozy, and people feel like they can let the guard down. And then everybody sleeps here. And I think it really allows that environment of healing. So it's been
Amazing. How
beautiful.
many come?
10 to 12, kind of keep it in that small group
Okay.
so that everybody has a chance to
Perfect.
share. We've had people come from Canada, from Arkansas, and as well as New York. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what's the future of this group?
So we meet throughout the year a few times. The day before Mother's Day is Birth Mother's Day. That's Saturday. I didn't know it existed either. And we have gone out to lunch. We have done dinners or brunches just to continue to meet. We do have a private group so we can message each other, whatever, and people share whatever's going on. It doesn't not have to necessarily be adoption related. And it's good to not talk about adoption sometimes because, like you said, our identity is not just being an adoptive mother, or a birth mother or an adoptee. The identity is multifaceted. So just knowing on those hard times or hard moments, you do have that support group. We're going to continue to meet. November 5th and 6th is the first full weekend in 2025. So we'll have our retreat then. We would love any woman who needs that support to come, men as well. We have had birth dads in the past. They're open to come. And then the dinner. I think this year we might have to hold the dinner in an actual location because it's growing, which is beautiful to have.
Nice.
We had this year a couple. I sold my photography. I didn't sell it really. I do some photography on the side.
You're a photographer too?
Yes.
Oh my God.
And all the donations I got at a tugboat festival went to support. So we're always looking for support. We're not nonprofit. We're just support. And then there's an adoption agency, Hudson Valley Adoption Services out of Kingston, New York. They're big advocates, and I do help them out and let people know because it's important to work with agencies that are ethical.
And they're a great agency.
Yeah. And looking for, as hopeful adoptive parents, it's very important to see a lot of agencies might promise post-placement help for birth moms, but they don't all follow through. So it's important to really ask certain questions.
And do you work in your life coaching business, because you're also a life coach, do you work with a lot of people touched by adoption in your coaching business?
Yes, it's a mix. So I work daily with a young lady who has autism, who's not touched by adoption. I worked internationally. Like you said, I speak Spanish. So somebody who might be having just a turn of life crisis or just need somebody to talk to, they may still be getting counseling. A lot of times counseling is for why I am who I am, where life coaching is forward thinking. And then my birth moms, the ladies there, whatever they might need throughout. I really think I like to focus, though I'm not married right now, on the healing of marriages in America. I think there's a lot of marriages that become stagnant, that if they just had a little bit of coaching, because some men don't want to go through therapy. They're afraid of that word. And just revive that, as well as parents with teenagers. I think that's a very time of turmoil, and it doesn't have to be. If you allow your child to have the microphone, right? We met the other day. We had, my kids are 22 and 20, and we had to have a powwow, and we had the pillow, and we passed around the pillow so that we could talk. And it's like, sometimes we just need to let someone else have the microphone. Brings a lot of healing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love everything that you're doing. I mean, it sounds like you have your hand in like 18 different things. I don't know how you do it all, but somehow us single women tend to do that. So I can relate a little bit.
Well, I'm not making dinner
we
every
are a
night.
force.
Yeah, anymore. Having kids that are grown definitely changes things.
Yeah. Well, now my son's starting to get into cooking, so I'm all about it.
Yes, absolutely.
I think you mentioned something earlier, but in your experience, what's one of the most common misconceptions about birth moms that you'd like to address and clarify?
I think I'm going to have to go back to before I was a birth mom. What did I think, right? Did I think these women were incapable, that they no longer wanted the responsibility, that they were I've read, recently somebody being irresponsible. You got pregnant, you had sex, similar to maybe what we think if you choose abortion. Well, why weren't you thinking about that before you got pregnant? Which is all true. I'm not going to say that. Yeah, we a lot of us should have thought about that. Maybe not in my position, but I think I'm a one-off. I'm more like that outlier. Not everyone's on drugs. Not everyone is homeless. And even somebody who's on drugs and homeless still might want their child to have more and have better than what they can do. And it's not that we don't want a parent. It's that in that moment, it's just not set up right for parenting. So some people, even though there are resources out there, just might see that it's not the right fit at that time. Think that somebody's not going to follow through. I mean, we're trusting you. We're literally handing you our closest next of kin, our legacy to raise, to love, to nurture, to educate. We're trusting you. Trust us as much as we're trusting you. Because that person's going,
it's hard. It's hard, and I get it. I'm guessing it's hard on both sides, right? Because it's the fear of the unknown, right? You're asking to trust somebody that you've never met in your life with one of the biggest decisions of your life, and to suddenly be family, right? And a lot of people talk to me when they're thinking about their adoption journey, and, well, what if this, and what if she's on drugs, and what if she's homeless, and what if, and I was like, first of all, you'll drive yourself nuts. Second of all, I have a feeling that the first minute you lay eyes on this woman who is carrying your potential baby, that you are going to melt all those what ifs away and just embrace her, because that's the power in this relationship. Yes, are there situations where it might not be safe? Of course. And there's just as many that it will be a beautiful relationship like you have with the family who adopted your children.
right.
So I love that. And I think you're right. It's those initial judgments that we go in with. And boy, wouldn't it be nice if we could just go in with no judgment, no expectation? I mean, it's human. We're human.
Yeah, and a lot of it we're
But
being fed from other people, because I know people will notate, like if Jess shares, hey, we had a birth family get together sort of thing, or we visited with, the twins' birth family, they'll say, oh, how nice it is that you still allow them to see the twins. And it's like, wait a minute, put on the brakes. Adoption has changed so much that the birth mom, when she's the expectant mom, chooses that family, chooses open adoption.
Right.
It's more that woman has chosen
That was
you,
the agreement.
And you've chosen each other. That, it's just changing that understanding of what adoption is now. And like you said, somebody, and I think you said this the last time we had that fireside chat, is just because someone is in a homeless shelter today doesn't mean in 10 years they're going to be in that same spot. I mean, where I am, I now own a home. Then I had just moved up to this area. So I was renting an apartment. I was raising 2 young kids. I'm in a different financial spot when you're literally, how much soccer costs, or dance lessons, or, going to the orthodontist, and you're in a different spot financially.
Yes,
sometimes emotionally, and maybe they don't have that other support from family as well. So there might be a lot of pressures. And I would say, as a hopeful adoptive couple, you might be getting a lot of pressure too. And people might be telling you to cut people out of these children's lives. And I don't know who it was, or maybe it was Lori. She really always says that we have to be adoptee focused, and honoring your child's birth family. And we talked about this on the fireside chat. Would you want your child to grow up, and when they're 25, learn that you did not give them the letters, that you'd never sent, pictures, or there's a box of pictures and letters that you never gave to them, because you were fearful? Or you listen to other people, there's nothing to be ashamed of to say, I've adopted these children, whether they look like you or not. Sometimes it's blatantly obvious. And listen, strangers, say stupid things all the time, inappropriate, heartless things. And that's one of the things Fran, who was on that fireside chat, wrote the book, and the other lady wrote the book to say, like, let's normalize the fact that it's okay that people have been adopted. It's okay to have the conversation. We're fine having it. So please be fine asking. We'll talk your ear off for an hour and 25 minutes.
I love it. When you come across, or just if there's a birth mom or a woman struggling with an unwanted pregnancy or a difficult pregnancy right now listening, and they might be considering adoption, what message or advice do you want to share with them?
I would say consider parenting for 2 weeks. Don't even think about adoption. Consider what that's going to look like. Then consider for 2 weeks adoption. Talk to other birth moms. Talk to adoptive parents. Talk to adoptees. And really understand as much as possible what that would look like, what you would choose for, just like we choose birth plans, right? Do we want a C-section? Do we want Pitocin? Do we want, any other intervention medically? Just as you would make a birth plan, you can make an adoption plan, and that doesn't even have to stick. You can look at profiles, and if somebody pops out to you and calls you, you might feel that. I do think anyone who adopts or anyone who chooses to place, it's a spiritual thing, and only those who have experienced it really get it. So consider it. If that's something on your heart, it's going to be the hardest thing you're going to do. And you can parent for a week or 2 weeks or 6 months, and you can still place. There are resources, and I would never do it under duress. If there's somebody that's forcing you to do anything that you don't want to do, step away from them and just get as educated and as informed as you can, so that if you do make this decision, when your child is 10, 12, 20, 40, 60, and they learn, they can know the truth.
What do you want to say to hopeful adoptive parents or newly adopted parents?
You say, there are plenty of babies out there. There are. We're not told about it. It's not spoken. You usually hear, oh, so-and-so is adopting, but very rarely do you hear, oh, so-and-so is pregnant and choosing adoption. Probably not to give up. I mean, I definitely believe in higher power. And there's adoption throughout the whole Bible. For sure. Moses, right, was placed in adoption, and his birth mom was his wet nurse, his nanny. I would say be yourself and understand that open adoption can be very healing for your child, for yourselves. And then you also have that openness to ask a lot of questions, if need be. In a time, there are times that some birth mothers need to pull away for a bit, to be patient and loving, and it could be hard on your child. It could be hard on you. I've talked to couples that, it's happened, and that's a loss that they feel. It's not an easy road, but you're not on the journey alone. You're definitely not. There's people like you, Becca, that are there for them, and there's definitely groups for adoptive parents. Get informed. To somebody just post placement, take tons of pictures. Some people have the Google, they share the drives, print out books, whatever.
Google.
Yeah.
What are you, 85?
Like Google Photos, right?
Some people have the Google
Google Photos. I was trying to think of what it was called. The shared drive. Whatever you're going to use. There are a lot of apps out there that are utilized. There are some people that open up an email account and just email things to that account. Nothing like a handwritten letter of gratitude. Mm-hmm. There's nothing like handwriting. Maybe that's the teacher in me, or I'm showing my age at 49. The Google and a handwritten note. Um, I was, yeah, just continue. Oh, I know for sure. When you have a visit, schedule the next
Yeah.
visit. Always allow that birth family to know when the next time it is that they're going to get to see their child or their baby as they grow. I think that's important for the healing, especially with siblings. Like I had two older children it wasn't just me that was looking forward to seeing the twins. My older two were also looking forward to seeing the twins. I have some pictures.
That's
You want me to
great
show them?
advice. Sure.
I mean, this is last year's Christmas card.
Sure. And if you're listening, you might want to hop over to YouTube to see it.
So here,
Oh
I
my
mean, like
God.
that
So
orange
cute.
there, that's Elias, the dad, and then that's Elias's mom, Jess, and then you see the twins.
So cute.
Yeah, let's see.
Are they okay with you sharing pictures?
Oh yeah, we are completely open.
You're a picture family.
We are. I
I
think
love
the
that.
story is better told in pictures. That's their birthday, their 10th birthday. I think when people see the pictures, they're like, "Oh, they're normal." This is not so, oh, they're cute.
Like they
Oh,
don't have
okay.
3 heads. Yeah.
I don't
have 3
know.
heads.
There's just something about kids and smiles. I think children are healing altogether, and for any birth mom out there suffering, I mean, I believe we're victims at first. Like, I was a victim of a crime, and then you become a survivor, and then an overcomer. No one else needs to pay for what someone else did to you. That needs to be dropped, and we need to move on to healing, because we want to have healthy relationships with all the people in our lives, especially the people that are raising the children that we have gifted parenthood to, so we're on the same team. It's not an us versus them. It's a triangle, an equilateral. We are all loved, and we're all giving more. Never giving up.
Katie, thank you so much. You have given us so many golden nuggets today. But before I let you go, I have a couple rapid fire questions. The first one is a shout out. Name a person or organization who has impacted your life as it relates to adoption.
I'm going to name 2, Lori Carino Reynolds, who's a licensed mental health counselor here in New York, and Tied at the Heart, a birth mother organization.
Awesome. I haven't heard of them, but we will link them in the show notes. You're a licensed realtor, right?
Yes.
Give us a tip about selling or buying.
There's never a bad market. When it's your time to buy, go for it. When you want to sell, go for it.
I love that. If you could instantly master any skill or hobby, what would it be and why?
I've always wanted to play the guitar and always wanted to speak Spanish, and I have logré esto. I have done that. Another skill or hobby, singing. I do not have like the best singing voice. I'm decent, but I would love to have a singing voice.
Well, if you learn to play guitar, I'll sing with you. I love it.
Perfect.
My last question is describe adoption in 3 words.
Always giving more. And you can contact me at alwaysgivingmore.life.
Remember, success is a continuous journey. If you find yourself veering off course, just steer back onto the roadmap until you reach your destination. And whatever you do, never lose hope. Hope is that light inside you that will lead you to your dreams. Katy, thank you so, so much for being here today. You have given us so much to think about, to learn from. And I just ask you, if you liked this episode and you learned anything, please share it with someone else who you think could benefit. Give it a rating, a review. I love to hear from you. I read every single one, and it means we can get our messages and our teachings out to more and more people. So thank you. Until next time, bye.
Hi, thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Adoption Roadmap podcast. If you did, I have a few favors to ask of you. First, please hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And while you're at it, I'd love to hear your takeaways. please write a review and let me know what you liked. And if you have a question or a suggestion on what you'd like to hear, I'd love to hear that too. Please shoot me an email at support@rgadoptionconsulting.com and let me know what you'd like to hear about. And if you have a question, I may just answer it online. Thanks again for listening. Tune in every Wednesday and Friday morning for a brand new episode of the Adoption Roadmap podcast. Until next time, bye-bye.